morning. Good morning, everyone on the webinar. I am in a really good mood. Good morning, Raya. I finally finished my half-day workshop on the weekend. I listened to your inner voice, and it was just beautiful. There was some beautiful women on there, and we just had a fantastic time. Lots of engagement, lots of questions, lots of wisdom shared with other women as well. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful Saturday morning. Good way to start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Diane. Diane was on our webinar on our workshop on the weekend, and I'm sure that she can tell us how she liked it in here. Good morning, good morning. So I'm going to start straight up, get my screen up. For those that are on the Facebook Live, I actually do this as a webinar. If it's going to work. Yes, it's going to work. So I do this as a webinar. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm looking at and what other people are looking at, if you're interested, you can register for that and just put yes, please in the comments below, and then we can send you the, good morning, Dell. We could send you the link to the webinar so that you get to see the PowerPoint and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so let's get started. Today, we're going to be talking about how energy works, and I spoke a little bit about this on my half day on the weekend, and I just wanted to sort of extend it out a little bit because not everyone understands, like not everyone's in my mind and my brain, and so you know, the way I understand and interpret energy might be very different to you, and might be the first time you sort of hear it that way as well. And so I wanted to extend it out a little bit so that I don't think that you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to do my best to break it down a little bit, what I'm actually talking about and how I run my life. I run my life with working with energy, and I work with it in a particular way because of the understanding and interpretation of it that I have, right? So before we go any further, for those that don't know, my name is Elizabeth Eleanor. If you're brand new to this, I would love for you to say hi in the comments and introduce yourself. Most people that come onto these already know me and have heard my story 100 times. However, I'm sure that every so often there's that one person that's never experienced anything that I do, and I would love to introduce myself to you and actually get to know you as well. So I am Elizabeth Eleanor, and I have been, wow, what have I been? I was a remedial massage therapist for 20 odd years. I'm going to say odd because I don't remember how long ago it was that I started saying 20. I lived in Far North Queensland, so I'm originally from Sydney, moved to Far North Queensland for like 17 years, and then moved back down to Sydney to support my mum through her transition as she gets a little bit older. And that was about 5 years ago. Huge process for me, from the rainforest to the suburbs. And if I wasn't a spiritual being, if I wasn't aware of how energy works and my thoughts and all that sort of stuff, it would have absolutely destroyed me. But because I work with energy and the way I understand things, it was a process, and I was in shock for about 3 years. It took me a very long time to get over the fact that I was living with lots of cement and neighbours very close and all of those things. And I actually, what I did, just from an energetic point of view, didn't matter where I was, if I felt I was starting to lose it a little bit, I would tune into a tree, or I would look at, crows were a big thing because we really sort of don't have them as much up in Cairns and Atherton area. And crows, I used to love watching crows. They're such a beautiful being, you know, like they sort of represent spirituality and death in some people's language. And for me, I just see the wisdom. I actually read a book, a novel. It was Deepak Chopra's first ever novel, and it's called The Return of Merlin. If anyone, it's actually a novel. If anyone's into novels and there's spiritual novels, I highly recommend it. It's a very old one now, but it was called The Return of Merlin, and it was actually about the modern time now, and how these characters, like there was a police officer and a homeless guy, and you know, I can't even remember the rest, but they were all aspects of the past. So there were Merlin, this homeless guy was Merlin, you know, the police officer, I think he was Arthur. And so it was really, really beautiful. But one of the things that I always remember and sort of held onto was this part where all the crows had one consciousness. And so if one crow thought something, then all the crows thought it. And it's always been quite mystical for me. So I've had this thing about crows ever since. And so that was one of the ways that I found myself just being able to coming down, and I'll explain this a little bit more as we go along, because in any given moment, your energy is your choice and how you're interpreting things in your surroundings and your stimuli. And so when I found myself getting in a place where I wasn't coping because of the meaning I was giving things, then I would tune into nature in some way, and that would definitely help me and bring me down, right? And so anyway, I discovered that my first language was vibration and energy, and discovered myself as an energy healer about 18 odd years ago, because it's most probably longer than that. And I've been working with women and men for about 15 years doing energy healing, and in the last 12 months really revved that up and started owning that I have something to offer just like everybody else, and this just happens to be my tool. And yeah, I've been working with women specifically for the last 12 months, and that's how Women of Light started, the Facebook group and the meetup group. And it's been a huge journey ever since, and a beautiful journey, meeting lots of gorgeous women and supporting people through their journey in one way or another, and just being a reflection for them and reminding them who they are, right? So that's my story. So let's get into it. Let me have a mouthful of tea. So how does energy work? And this is my understanding, right? So I just wanted to preface this with, this is my understanding. I've, you know, read books and quantum physics and in not the full-on ones, but I don't know, I've just sort of gathered information. When I read my first spiritual book, good morning, Miranda. When I read my first spiritual book, I remember going, because I, as a lot of you know, I actually found myself at a psychic who said, you can do what I can do, and I just didn't believe her and stuff. So I didn't really get into it because of my own processes. And she left me to my own devices, and like, oh my gosh, you're gonna, you know, like, how can I do this? I have never experienced what I'm experiencing, and she wouldn't let me come back. So I had to work it out myself. And I had this experience where my cat got attacked by 2 pit bull terriers out the front of my house. And I raced down the road screaming like a banshee. And a neighbour saw me, and he was the only witness. And so I had to go to his house to get him to sign so I could get those dogs put behind the fence, like a fence, proper fence in their house. And so I went over, and he had all of these Buddhist signs and write-ins and sayings all over his house. And that was like, after the psychic, that was my first experience of someone that might know what's going on for me. And so he gave me a book, and it was actually Neil Donald Walsh book, Conversations with God. It was the 4th book, so it wasn't the first 3, which has got most of the information in it. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, someone thinks like I do, because I'd always had this idea of how things worked in the back of my mind. You know, when you know something but you don't realize you know it. So my understanding of energy is quite pure and innocent in a way. I've got that, you know, childlike nature to me sometimes, most of the time actually. And so this is my understanding of energy, right? So energy, everything is energy, and energy vibrates at different frequencies. So that's the basis of my understanding. And so in those 2 statements, and you know that energy vibrates at different frequencies, I've been able to understand so much, because that's as simple as it can be, and yet through that it's extremely complicated if you dive into the complication of it. Complex. Don't let me say complicated. Let's delete that. Complex is very complex. And so I've lived my life on that basis, understanding how things work, because everything's energy, and energy vibrates at different frequencies, right? And I'm going to explain that a little bit further if people don't even know what frequency is. So the next thing that I want to share is that thought is the purest form of energy. And so if you've got a particle, so if anyone knows anything about science or physics or quantum physics, you know, everything, that they're still working it out, right? At one stage, and I haven't been following it for so long, I wouldn't even know what they're up to. But, you know, they were saying that the smallest thing was an atom or a particle. And then they went into the string theory, which was, you know, like that as a vibration, as this string. And so anyway, there's this particle, let's just say it's a particle. And in my understanding, every single particle has a consciousness to it, because if everything's energy, I personally believe that we are in a huge consciousness. We are in it, we are it, we are being it, we are this complete huge consciousness. And what language you use around that is up to you. So whether you say it's God, whether you say it's source energy, whether you say it's the universe. I've had my play with the word universe, because when I started playing with the understanding of what God is, because, you know, there's some ownership around that with religions, right? And so others outside of that can have their own thoughts. Let's keep it on the same page. They can have their own thoughts and interpretations about the word God. And so I delved into it a little bit. And last year, or the year before, I think it was now, I read the Bible from cover to cover, just from a non-religious place, and I discovered some really interesting information. It's a very spiritual book when you open it up without an interpretation of what it is. And so I've now got no problem with the word God. You know, as soon as you've got a problem with something, then there's a vibration that you need to look at inside of yourself, so that you've got a nice, clear vibration. And anything that you're reacting to, you want to look at, because that's blocking part of your energy and causing a disturbance in your field, so that you're not as clear as you possibly could be to your higher self, right? The connection to the all that is, the source energy, God, whatever you want to call it. And so the word universe, I know some people use it, but from my, and this is again my interpretation, my understanding, is that it's sort of like calling, like I see the universe as the garden, and it's sort of like calling the garden the horticulturalist, the gardener. So, you know, I that's just my play on it. So, you know, the universe is the realm of where the creator creates. And so that's just a bit of food for thought on Monday morning for you. So thought is the purest form of energy, and every particle has a consciousness to it. Now, whether it's conscious that it's conscious is another thing. However, every particle has a consciousness to it and has the ability to, well, actually, now that I just said have the ability, is actually that it just is. It is a being. Like it's not a being, but it's the very thought that it's a particle means it's got a consciousness to it. There is no getting away from that. I just had a bit of a challenge in my head with that. So thought is the purest form of energy. And so when you have a thought, the more I've spoken about this, the more it's come clear to me. Even the word thought projects out. When you say the word thought, there is no energy retracting in. So a thought projects out. So when you have a thought, you're creating, you're a creator, and you're having a thought, you're creating in some form, and those particles are going out. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. And so the other part of energy is like attracts like. So when you have a thought, you keep thinking that thought, that they all attract to each other. So let's back up a bit and say, and have a discussion about what frequency means. So I actually looked it up in the dictionary for everyone. The two things that were in the dictionary were frequency means the rate at which something occurs over a particular period of time or in a given sample. So when something's, you know, frequently happening, so we all sort of get that idea, right? And the other part of that, the definition, was the rate. This is the one that I relate to and I wanted to share with you here. The rate per second of a vibration constituting a wave, a wave, either in a material, as in a sound wave, or in an electromagnetic field, as in radio waves and light. So it's a vibration of a wave happening, and it's like how fast that vibration happens depends on what that particular thing is. And so, you know, they did a I'll talk about that later, that like attracts like. So thoughts are the purest form of energy. So are you in control of your thoughts? Because thoughts are either high vibration, a high frequency, or they're a low frequency. And so when you're having low frequency or low vibrational thoughts, that's causing your vibration to be low, and therefore also causing bumps in your life. Mistakes happen. Things that you feel like you didn't want to create are being created because your frequency or your vibration is not in tune with what you want, because you've got thoughts happening so that aren't in alignment with what you want to create, what your desire is, what your destiny is. And so you need to look at what is it, if you want to move into a higher place, if you want to go towards your destiny and your desires, then be aware of whether you're in the game of power and powerless. If you're on here and you've never heard of Power and Powerless, can you just give me a thumbs up, or anyone that's on here that hasn't on the webinar. So Judy, you've never heard of Power and Powerless? I'll just get the chat up. Yasmin hasn't heard of Power and Powerless. And so the 3 powers, I've got a webinar called the 3 powers. Okay. On our, if you've been registered, then potentially you were sent it, or maybe you didn't register straight away. I actually have it on my Spiritual Warriors face, Elizabeth Allen, or the Spiritual Warrior, and you can actually have a look at that at the end. I'll show it what I'm talking about. But go back and see A Dose of Sunshine. I think the very first one I did was about the 3 powers. And so you'll be able to get an understanding. It's actually the basis of the work I do, and gives you an understanding of whether you're playing the game of feeling power and powerless, or if you're connected with your higher self and you're empowered and you've stepped out of that. So if you're on here and you haven't heard of that, please put it in the messages as well, and I'll see if I can find it for you, and I will mention it, or I'll see if I can send you an email or something so that you get a little bit more understanding about it. So really, when you're looking at how energy works, you want to be aware of your thoughts, because your thoughts create a feeling, which is a vibration in you, like a feeling, an emotion, which then creates an action. So if you wake up in the morning and you go, I don't want to get out of bed, I feel crappy, I had a horrible weekend, you know, oh my gosh, I've got to go to work today, how am I going to pay the bills, blah, 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 then that's going to lower your vibration. You're going to get out of bed, potentially might trip over something that you've left on the floor, you know, like you're going to burn your hair in the straightening iron, you know, like all of these things that can happen. You'll get lots of traffic on the way to work. Next thing, you're late. Like all of these things that happen are because we create them from the way we think and the thoughts that we've got. And so those patterns can be patterns that no longer serve you. And so you want to be aware of those things and be diligent with the way your mind works, and be aware, okay, is this thought a good thought? Is this serving me, or is this not serving me? Because when you're diligent with your thoughts, you want to be able to shift them, then you need to be aware of what you're thinking, right? You also want to be aware of what the meaning is behind the thought. So we're creating our reality. Now, even when I say that, I'm aware that there's parts to that can be misinterpreted, because in the spiritual realms, sometimes people can get caught up in that we're creating our own reality, right? But there's 2 parts of us. We are the little Elizabeth that lives here as a human, and I've got work to do to grow, or I wouldn't be here anymore. And there's the part of me that has this beautiful, pure wisdom that's connected with the higher source, that understands what's going on all realms, and I can connect to that. So that part of me is the creator, and I'm tuning into that. The more I can clear my energy, the more I'm understanding that purity, and the more I can have that mingle with me down here, and the more I seem to be a creator down here. It's the first time I've said that like that, Raya. If you want to write that down, take note of that. So you want to mingle that energy down here so that you're working in tune with your higher intuition, with the connection to your God, your source energy, because that part of you is the creator, and that's the dichotomy of it, right? You want to be aware of the meaning that you hold with things, because we often have things caught up in our base chakra, and I call it tribal knowledge. So where we are on the planet at the moment, you know, we've been evolving, guys. We've been evolving. We're still evolving. Our consciousness is changing. The way we believe in women's rights now is different. The way we believe in bringing children up, the way we believe in affecting the planet, or being part of the planet, the way we're feeling about the way we are too busy and we're not thinking about our environment. All of those things are constantly changing. So when you are aware that our parents did, good morning, Liana. Lovely to have you on here. When we can be aware that we're just in this time-space reality, that, you know, our parents did the best they could because of the information and the consciousness that was in their time-space reality when they were bringing us up, and prior and prior and prior. And so here we are, we're breaking free of some of those old patterns. We're breaking free of some of that old knowledge. So now is the time to be aware of what is affecting you, what parts of that is affecting you, and it's often in our base chakra. When I work with clients, I help give you information about how to clear that out and let go of the meaning of what it is, and forgive whatever has happened in your life, so that you can clear that and raise your vibration through that process. So be aware, what's the meaning? Are you holding on to things in the past, or are you constantly in the future and not thinking about where you are now and how you are being in this now moment and what you're creating in this now moment? Because, you know, depression is from being in the past, anxiety is from being in the future. When you're in the present, then you can let go of those things and understand from a deeper level. Power and powerless, past and present can be. When you step into empowered, then there is no holding on to anything. And so you can let go. There is no forgiveness, because there's no one to forgive. We're all part of the one, right? So what are you creating? I want you to think about that for the week. Good morning, Jody. Have a think about that for the week. If you journal, sit down and have a think about that. What is it that you are creating? Look at your conscious and your unconscious. You know, when you're doing something, think about whether it's because you're unconsciously thinking of something, you've given it a meaning. Is it a block and is it a trigger? What are your blocks and triggers? Like, see if you can play with, just for the week, if this is new to you, maybe just for the day. Just have a look at, why am I doing something? What's the pattern that's creating me to do this? Have you got lower vibrations that are affecting how you create? Because often we can have things that from our past, and even from previous experiences that we're not even aware of. And is your environment supporting you? I'm just looking at the chat again. Seems to me that I am the creator of my energy, but as we are all together here, there will be impacts from others. It is so easy to add meaning rather than see what happened. We learn it from the cradle. Absolutely. I mean, that's the journey, Diane. Like, if it was easy, we'd be in a totally different world, living in a totally different environment. But that's what we're all here to do, is to understand who we are and the experiences we're having, and let go of what the meaning is to us, and go from meaning into observation, observing. That's a whole different, maybe I'll do another a dose of sunshine on the difference between meaning and observation. And the other part of that, Diane, thank you for adding that information. The other part of that is that when you're in empowered, because you're right, your meaning depends on what others as well. Others have got, you know, the web of things is quite interesting. Good morning, Irene. I get that must mean it's 8:30, so sorry, 9 o'clock. And so when you step out of that and into into a different place of the observation, then the way you interact with others is very, very different. So in saying that, is your environment supporting you? Who is it that you've got in your life, and what's their vibration? Because we are definitely influenced by, you know, they say the 5 people that influence you, right? The 5 people that you hang around the most definitely infiltrate your energy field. And so, you know, the news infiltrates your energy field. Be aware of what it is that you've got in your environment, and is it supporting you to raise your vibration and to be the higher being that you actually are, or is it causing you to be stuck, seeing yourself as human, being in that unconscious place of fear and doubt and worry and concern? Because we are in control. We are in control, guys. It just takes a bit of time and effort, instead of staying in the old patterns of, okay, I'm going to watch TV, I'm going to watch the news because I need to know what's going on with COVID, or I need to know what's going on. I have not watched the news for 20 odd years. I say odd because it's still the same. I have no idea how long it's been. And I always know what's going on because everyone's talking about it. So, you know, like, I don't know exactly what's going on with COVID. I do know that the borders closed in Queensland. The things that I need to know are the things that I know. But I don't need to know all the finer details, because the finer details can get us stuck in the fear and the worry and the doubt and concern. The news brings you down. It does. It's actually, unfortunately, created to be like that, because people thrive on fear because of our amygdala. The reptilian part of our brain that's always looking for the lion outside the cave. We're wired to be in a place of concern, worry, doubt, and fear, so that we're safe. Watch out, our environment might kill us, which is an old, ancient thing that we don't need anymore. So we need to move away from it and don't allow the things like the news to carry us into that. Okay, I've most probably gone over. For those that are on the webinar and don't know about my business page, it's called Elizabeth Eleanor, the Spiritual Warrior. That little QR code, that crazy image there, you just have to click on that, and that will be able to guide you through to that. That's where you'll find all those A Dose of Sunshines ladies that were just saying that you don't know about the 3 powers. Jump on there and you'll be able to, even I don't know if you can search on a business page, but you should be able to search and have a look to see all of A Dose of Sunshine. Actually, you just made me realize I haven't hashtagged it, but if you I will go around and hashtag all of those A Dose of Sunshine, so they're easier to find from previous webinars that I've done. And if any of this information has caused you to look at something and you're not quite sure how you're going to shift it, or you want to know a little bit more about what's going on, I do complimentary 30-minute chats every month. I usually do, you know, around about 10. I don't know where we're up to at the moment, but if you're interested, please just put yes, please in the chat so that we can look at your vibration and what's going on and see if we can do something to support you through that process. I just see, yes, please. Okay, Yasmin, I will make sure that we get onto you and send you a link so that you can book in for that. And if you're new to these webinars as well, this Wednesday, I think it is, maybe Thursday, the 20th of August, whenever it is, I do a meetup once a month for Women of Light, and I often have guest speakers. And so this month, and it's this week, is going to be body emotion connection, and my guest speaker is Petra Tazak, I think her name is. And so if you're interested in finding out more about that, please put meetup in the links as well in the comments below, and we can send you the information about that as well. I have missed, sorry, I have missed the, how do I get back to the chat? There it is. I just realized 2020 isn't the year from hell for me. It's the year of opportunity. Oh my gosh, well done, Diane. See the meaning? I'm so privileged to be part of that process. So you've changed it from the year of hell to the year of opportunity. That is amazing. Well done. So if you're interested in finding out more about the meetup, just put meetup in the links in the comments below, and we will send you the link to that. And yeah, that's me for the day, and I hope that I have given you some food for thought for your week. And thank you, Elizabeth, and everyone. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much, Diane. Take care, everyone, and I will catch you next week. I really should work out what I'm going to be doing week to week so that I can tell you at the end of this webinar what next week's going to be. But I haven't done that yet. So I will, one of the things about living in the moment is sometimes you can be a bit spontaneous. So I think you could, but not that you should. Absolutely. Well done, Diane. Yes, I could do that. Take care, everyone. I'm going to stop the webinar on here. Wait a minute. I've got a few people saying stuff on here. Goodbye, everyone on the webinar. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next